Hello, everybody. I'm Meredith, and welcome to Conversations with Friends, where we invite you every other week to, actually it's every week, but my segments are every other week. And we invite you to meet some very, very interesting people, but more than that, people who are really committed to doing good in our society. And for me and for the Brahma Kumaris, that's so important, for people to realize that with all the bad that's happening in the world, there is a lot of good. And there are people that are doing so much good. So that's what we want to showcase and spotlight on this series. So we're happy to have someone who's been doing this for many, many years. He's not a household name yet, though. It feels like so many people in South Florida know of him and the work that he does. So I want to introduce you to Peter London, who is the artistic director, the founder, the choreographer, and much more of the Peter London Global Dance Company. And Peter has been involved for so many years with dance. We're going to go back in time to when he was a kid in Trinidad and discovered that he had a lot of talent. So Peter, welcome. I'm really happy to have you. I'm really happy to see you. And Peter, tell me a little bit about what happened 10 years ago when you had this idea, because you have been a New World School of the Arts dance professor for many years, and you decided, I want to even go beyond that, as important as that work is. I want to start my own dance company. What motivated you to do this?
Good morning, Meredith. Thank you for having me on. I truly appreciate it. The idea of having a dance company started way back when I was in Trinidad, a dancer with a folk dance group, one of the leading dance companies in Trinidad and Tobago called the Bataria Folk Dance Group, which I eventually became the artistic director of at age 19. And then I decided to pursue, after dancing with another dance company, the Repertory Dance Theater of Trinidad and Tobago, led by Asta Johnson, to create a choreography. It wasn't so much of a dance company, but to create choreography that blended the ballet, classical ballet that I was studying, the Lester Horton technique, and the folk dance, retention of African dance that I was dancing with and known since I was a kid. And that led me to the Julliard School and the Alvin Ailey School, and to return to Trinidad and to start creating that type of choreography. But then my teachers at Julliard encouraged me to stay and dance with Jose Limon and Martha Graham, and that's what I did. I danced with Jose Limon after the graduation of the Julliard School, and then Martha Graham, who invited me to dance with her and her company, and that just created a whole long life of work with Martha and her company, and then becoming at times the associate artistic director senior for tours, international tours. And eventually I came down to Miami to work with my former teacher, Julliard, Daniel Lois, who was dean at the time at New World School of the Arts. And working there, part of the work is choreographing. And eventually I says, okay, all right, well, I learned the information, I think, about how to blend these different techniques together. And in 2010, I decided, okay, I will create the company here for the dancers that I was working with at the African Cultural Heritage Arts Center, and dancers that I was teaching at Dance Empire in South Miami in Pinecrest. And that's how it began.
So, I mean, that's a lot of history right there. So you really did, and you do still, as a dance professor at New World School of the Arts, where the most talented young people in South Florida go to school. They're selected to go there. For people that don't know about the school, right? And it's not just dance at New World School. It's dance, it's art, it's writing, it's theater, it's everything. So would you say that most of your dancers that are in the company now, or have been in the company over the last 10 years, were selected from New World, or do you also include others in South Florida?
Most of the dancers in my company are graduates from the New World School of the Arts, and some are from different companies and schools. Some of them are students, like I started teaching since they were 8 and 9 years old at Dance and Pie and Pinecrest, or students that I was teaching at the African Cultural Heritage Arts Center in Liberty City. So from there, I'll bring them into New World, and then they may go off and dance, sometimes with Alvin Ailey, that I make arrangements for scholarships with Alvin Ailey or Martha Graham, and they may come back home and work with the company, perform, teach, choreograph, and so on and so forth.
I get the feeling, Peter, that you create, I mean, a dance company, but even beyond that, a community of dancers that come together. Community, like you say, they come back and they dance with you. They come and they work with the dancers, and it's kind of a very special relationship that you have with the dancers, and the dancers have with so many other talented people in this community and all over. Is that part of your aim, is to make dancers feel that they're part of something really special?
Well, it's to give them an opportunity, for them a community space where they can, because they go away and they work with some of the top companies. Like I said, some of them make arrangements to them for the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, people like Jamal Roberts, and who is now the resident choreographer for Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, several other dancers, Zach Ingram, Gentry Isaiah George, Annalise Monroe. They all dance with the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, second company, first company, or both. Lloyd Knight, who danced with the Martha Graham Dance Company, is a principal dancer. Jacqueline Boulness. It's just so many. They dance with Gad Fagan, Vitolia Jeune, Jacqueline Buglisi, just all over the world. And so when they come home, they said they're the ones who said they wanted a place to go to, because I said there are other companies and other schools and your studios go back. They said, well, it'd be great if they wanted to work with me, they said, and continue working and growing. And I thought it would be a great opportunity if they can work with each other, and those who were here trying to move out in the world, that they can share what they have learned from those companies and with each other here in Miami and South Florida, and help them to grow. And then they can also move out. They'll be better equipped as well, or more equipped, to go out and dance with these major dance companies, but they have a home base. And so that's a part of what the company is about, in providing them with that opportunity to work with each other and share that with the community.
You must be so proud. I mean, you must be so proud, Peter, of what you have created. And it's like a family, as I said, and it's really gives them a sense of purpose, to be part of something bigger, because it's not very easy to be a dancer and to make it today. And I want to talk about that, but let's just show people a little bit about what you do. This is some video of actually a past video, right, of a performance. And you've gone on to do a lot of other different kinds of work that we're going to talk about after this. Peter?
Yes.
Thank you so much for letting us have a peek at what you do, and which is quite amazing. I wanted to talk about some of the changes that you have been through over the years, because I've attended many of your performances and with friends, and everybody is just like wowed by what you see and what they see and what you do. but the kind of dance that you're doing now has changed a lot. The last performance at the Arts Center recently was just like, all I can say is one big wow. There was one standing ovation after another. And the dance was different. Have you changed the kind of dance that you're now choreographing or showing? And this was great what we saw, but it feels like you've made a change in what you're doing, in the kind of work you're doing.
Well, each year I do a different program. It tends to be based on, sometimes it's based on dances that are more African retention of dance in South America, in the Caribbean, in the United States. So there's more jazz and, Afro-Caribbean style, Latin style. I bring in Cuban style and so on and so forth. And then there are different programs that has to do with the biography of different communities. For instance, I did this one program was about Black men, stories of Black men, like Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and so on and so forth. So that was one program. Another program was celebrating women, our mothers, and and women in our lives. And that was called Woman Roses Water. And so those different programs each year. This program this year that we just did at the Adrian Arts Center, which was called Touch and Rain on Me, had to do with the resilience of the artists and the frontliners and people in the community, their resilience during the pandemic. And one of the differences with this program, I started very early. In February, starting choreographing the dances, and I rehearsed all the way through to December. And I think that was one of the big differences that heightened the look of the performance, because it was so well rehearsed. There was so much time for me to make adjustments, make arrangements, make changes to the choreography, and for the dancers to grow. But usually we don't have a whole lot of time. So there's a short amount of time usually for us to do the production based on financial resources and dancers' availability. But this year in particular, we pushed more to get more funds, and so that we could rehearse on a longer period of time. And the dancers somehow were more available because they couldn't travel to go to New York and to go to summer festivals, and which they normally do, and workshops. So they were right here in Miami. And so we had more time to rehearse. And that also helped take the performance to a very higher level of professionalism and expertise in their rendition.
Interesting. So what has been, a source of so much suffering for so many people has, and I don't mean to say this in a bad way, I mean to say it in a good way, is that it has its benefits too, because people have been able to do things maybe, and I'm not even mean just your dance company, but other kinds of things have changed, but they've actually helped benefit people's lives. Like you say, you had more time to work on what you do. And I want to know, what is the creative process like for you? Is there any way you can describe it? Because when I have seen your performances over the years, I'm like really amazed, and I see other people are amazed too. What goes into choreographing just one piece? Do you think about it a lot? What happens?
Well, basically for me, it's just storytelling, telling the story of my observation of the human experience, of whatever it is. A story of, I call about that, the story of Black men in the New World, and how their struggle or our struggle to create equity for ourselves, our families, and to uplift our community. And the things that happen along the line, the tragedies like Floyd Flynn and so many others, and how do I respond to those? How do I respond to the stories that are being told about our experience and the experience of other people? I've even choreographed dance on Frida Kahlo, which for me, it's She represents just not her herself, but the experience of an artist struggling to try to make it. Picasso have choreographed dances based on Picasso, and his experience with his muses, the woman, the 9 women, you know, so things like that that I would do. So they're telling stories of individual people that has a wider connection to everybody else in the world. And so I start with that, and I start writing out what the concept would be and how I will tell the story. I'm just sitting down and telling a story. And then of course it has to be edited, because you know the dance will only be like 10 minutes, 15 minutes long, or 20 minutes long. So I have to edit it and just putting all the major points out. Then I start thinking of the music, what will be the best type of music, whether I'm commissioning the score or I'm choosing music to go with that. And so there's a lot, hours and hours hours listening to music, tons of music. Then there are books. If there are books written, you know, there's a lot of stuff written about, like, for instance, Frida Kahlo or Picasso or Malcolm X or Martin Luther King. For instance, for the Black Men's Story, I actually went to Washington, D.C., to the African American Museum of Culture and Art in D.C. and spent time there studying the whole thing, from the bottom floor all the way up, from slavery, the whole thing there, with Frederick Douglass, all the stories of Frederick Douglass, and books, tons of books, you know, Booker T. Washington. I bought all the books on Booker T. Washington and so on and so forth. And it's just hours and hours of reading, hours and hours of listening to music and writing. So I'll have like hundreds of pages on the floor, on the table, writing down the different stories, then scratching out and writing and rewriting for months, until I bring it down to about 14 pages. And then it still have to be edited, and then putting the music with this and that, and then start the choreography with the dancers. So it's a huge, long, endless process to produce 10 to 15 or 20 minutes of dance. It takes months and hours and days of work.
You know, it's funny because I've known you so many years, and I will tell everybody I've been on the on your community advisory board, and then moved on to being on the board of directors with Peter London Global Dance Company. And I've never heard you say this before. So I'm learning something right here. You know, I'm learning about, I mean, I have a sense of what it takes from attending meetings and seeing, but I don't think I had any idea of how much is involved in the research and the coming up with the themes. You know, your themes are so amazing. You didn't mention Marilyn Holyfield, the I mean, just much talked about author, attorney in South Florida, and her book, and you devoted a whole program, or part of a program, right, to her work, what she's been doing over the years. So maybe say something about Marilyn Holyfield, who's recognized nationally now. Yeah.
So Marilyn Holyfield book, Seven Sisters and a Brother, I went to a program at PAM, at the Perez Museum, that was hosted by the president of the Knight Foundation, Alberto Ibarguen, had to present the book that Marilyn and her colleagues wrote. And Marilyn read from a portion of the book that she wrote, the portion of the book that she wrote. And I was amazed by two things. It was fantastic, the story of they, as young people, back in the 60s, I guess, 70s, fighting for equality. Marilyn Holyfield was one of the first people that was sent to school to desegregate schools in Tallahassee. And her family came from the Deep South and so on and so forth. She has a complete history of the Jim Crow times and so on and so forth. And then she went off to college and started a sit-in with her colleagues at her college. And they eventually succeeded in integrating the school with books about African studies and so on and so forth, and history. So, but the second part of why I was so inspired to include her in the Woman Roses Water, because I was celebrating women that year, I'd be like, it'd be perfect to celebrate Marilyn herself as one of the top civil rights lawyers in the country, and this book that she wrote. And I got the book and I read it, and I thought it's one of the no, have I read a lot of books? I don't know. But it was one of the best written books that I've ever read. It was just, I was like, my God, this is so well written. But the second thing too was Marlon herself, the way she spoke. I was like, she's an actress. Her voice, the timing, the tone. I mean, it was like listening to a great poet. And so I approached her and says, I would like to include this portion of your book in the program that I'm doing. And she was very hesitant. And I said, and then I told her I would like you to be on stage reading the portion of the book. She protested. And I did everything I could to get Miss Hollifield into the program. She finally agreed to be part of the program, reading from her book. I got pictures from her family. I got an artist, Michael Elliott, a Jamaican artist, to draw the paintings of what she described of what a family house was like in her grandparents' home in Mississippi, and the new home that she and her parents built when they moved out of Mississippi in Tallahassee. So I had the artist paint all of that, and that was in the background whilst Marlon was reading. And it turned out phenomenal. I think you can see some of that on patreon.com. And
where on your website can it be seen?
On patreon.com.
Say that again, spell it maybe for people that don't know.
Patereon, patreon.com.
Yep, patreon.com, yeah.
So some of that is there. And the plan was to then go to her college and do some filming there to create a film of some of the story that's in her book. I'm
sure there will be a film about her and her work and your work too. Well, I know you have films that you've done. And I want to say a couple more things before we have to kind of close. I could talk with you all day, but you're all over town these days, aren't you? I mean, one moment I hear that you're at the band shell on Miami Beach. Another moment, well, we know that you're at Coral Gables Museum. I mean, you have performed at a lot of these venues over the years, but it seems to have really increased recently. What's happening with that?
Well, what's interesting about us, we've been performing all over the place. We perform at Perez Museum, we perform at Mocha in North Miami, we perform at galleries, at the Miramar Cultural Arts Center, the Little Haiti Cultural Arts Center. We do summer performances sometimes at the University of Miami, we perform there, just all over the place. And what happened in the pandemic, there's a lot of places that are closed down. Yeah. And so the Miami Beach have a program that they instituted recently, Miami Beach Department of Cultural Affairs, called Culture Crawl, where they have performances throughout the community on Miami Beach, and they've invited us to be part of that. And so we've been at the Miami Bandshell, we were at Loomis Park on Ocean Drive, and this coming Thursday on the 20th, for the first time, we will be premiering a film that I created, filming on the beach, because all the theaters were shut down. We had no place to go. And so I choreographed the dances with the dancers in their homes. And then I said, let's create a film since we can't perform anywhere. And then we'll show the film of our work. And so that's what I did. I filmed it on the beach, on 79th and Collins, and the volleyball court, on the sidewalk, on the beach itself. And that film is called Eviction, and it's going to be premiered at the Newell Symphony Soundscape, 6 to 9 p.m. on Thursday, January 20th. And we're also going to give a live performance of some of the dances prior to the showing of the film, which will be shown at 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Then they have us performing on February 17th at Collins Park on Miami Beach. And then we're going to do a performance at the Botanical Gardens on May 15th. And then our third presentation of women's choreographic voices, which I created in 2017 at the Coral Gables Museum with live music directed by Portia Dunkley. The one at the Botanical Gardens will we'll also have live music led by Artistic Director of the Ballet and Dance Orchestra, Ezra Hogerberg. And the performance on the 20th is music, we commissioned music from the great jazz artist, Etienne Charles, who created a wonderful score for us for part of the dance. And we're also using music from his award-winning album, Creole Soul. So it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
So you have one program after another, one performance after another coming up. I've said this to you before, Peter. You're amazing. The work you do is amazing. I often wonder that when do you sleep, if you ever sleep, because you've always got something else and you're teaching. You've kept your day job, you know, you're still teaching dance, modern dance to the New World School of the Arts students, the most
full-time
talented
college
students.
and high school. Well, there's very
College
little
and high
sleep.
school,
There's
right.
just little rest. Just lie down. And whilst you're choreographing, sometimes just lie down. and just keep going. There's so little, as Martha Graham said, there's so little time to be born to the instant.
Yeah. Peter, it's always a pleasure to get to talk with you. And I thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Maybe just mention the website if people are interested in what you do and what's coming up, and just mention the website for us.
You can see what's coming up on our website, and we have videotapes on the website so that you can enjoy some of excerpts of the dances at plgdc.com, and just click that and it takes you right to the website. And you plgdc.com, you can see excerpts, you can see programs, you can read about the company history, and you can make a donation if you want it as well there. To support us. And Meredith, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you this morning, and to thank you for being a great community supporter, first being on our advisory board and now being on our board of directors. So I thank you so very much for that, for your invaluable and critical support.
Thank you, Peter. And I have to say, it's just been very inspiring to get to be with you and work with you and your amazing dancers and everybody. You know, it's an experience, and it's even more of an experience, I think, for people to go and see what you do, because I can't think of any other word but awesome. Your performances are really, really awesome. So Peter, thanks so much for joining us, and look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you so very much for having me on.
Bye, Peter.
Bye-bye.